It's a new dawn.
Just say, okay, I'll just pay my dues, and as long as things seem to be getting kept up, then I guess the board's doing an okay job. And
Until you get the money.
so you get to a money. Yeah, you're right. When it becomes a money issue, all of a sudden it becomes important. But
All right, good morning. I'm happy to see all of you here in August. Typically, the August board meetings aren't that well attended, but I'm happy you all are here. I'll call the meeting of the August 30th board of the HOA2 to order. If I can, I'd like to ask you to consider silencing your cell phones. Just put them on airplane or turn them off or do something, but if you could do that, that would be great. If you would stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have a very full agenda today, so we're going to try to get through this as quickly as we can, but we want to make sure plenty of time is available for each of the items. The first thing the board needs to do is to approve two past meetings. On June 28th, 2023, we held a corporate board meeting. That's required by our CC&Rs and our corporation bylaws. So we did that, and we have minutes. Can I hear a motion from the board to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Sean, second by Campbell to approve those minutes. All in favor? Aye. Say aye. All opposed? Okay. The minutes have been approved. We also have minutes, and these minutes are online, by the way, so it's not like they're not available to everyone in the organization or in the HOA. For the 2020, the June 28th, 2023 regular board meeting, which followed the corporate meeting. So I need a motion to approve those minutes. Matt, second?
Second.
Second, Campbell. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, super stuff. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into Walter Yazzie and his general manager update. So Walter, I'll turn this over to you. While he's doing this, I got just one change. We're going to change Ray. Ray is out today, Ray Kuhn, for the project update, and Dove is going to take over for him. Dove is a facilities director. And after Walter has completed his general manager's update, he's just going to keep on trucking and give us a North Star software update at the same time. So I'll turn this over to you, Walter.
All right, thank you, Dan. First, let me just say it's great to be back with you. I missed last board meeting, had a little appendicitis I had to deal with, so thank you for those that sent your well wishes also. I appreciate that. Okay, so to start with today, you see the little symbol on the screen behind me. We've had that up for some time. Again, it's to show that we appreciate you as a staff, we appreciate you as residents. All the things that you do, using the facilities is good for us. I mean, that's why we're here, using the facilities and being active here. But I want to add from the Mayo Clinic a little bit more about this issue of gratitude. It says, expressing gratitude is associated with a host of mental and physical benefits. Studies have shown that feeling thankful can improve sleep, mood, and immunity. Gratitude can decrease depression, anxiety, difficulties with chronic pain, and risk of disease. So, there's something behind this. It's not just words. The staff does appreciate you, and we're happy to work here. Okay, so let me roll in. I'm going to actually just start with the North Star update. North Star, so kind of a little background. We use a club management system currently called TEI. TEI hasn't been working very well for us, so we decided to go to a previous software we use, which is North Star. So the North Star club management system, we've been working for several months now to get that ready, and we're finally ready to go. Coming this Friday, we're going to roll this out in 3 different phases. So Friday really will be kind of behind the scenes. Friday, we're going to switch the POS stations at the restaurant, at the golf course, and a lot of behind the scene items will be switching, which really will be probably not noticed very much by you. Then the second phase of this, actually after the weekend, which will be on the 5th of September, we are then going to start up the new website, the North Star website. There'll be some information from marketing coming out on exactly how you're going to log back into your new accounts on North Star. We've worked hard with North Star to make it so that you can just use the email accounts that you have already established. So it'll be pretty similar to just getting on TEI. Once you get on the website will look pretty similar. There'll be a few changes, but it's still going to look pretty similar to what you've seen before. So there's not going to be much, it's not going to confuse you too much. You will have to get used to it a little bit, but so that's going to be the second phase on the 5th of September. And then there's a third phase. The third phase is in addition to the website, we're going to actually have the capability to, we're going to put out an app. So the website, once we get the website ironed out, whatever little problems we have with the website, we'll then push those over to an app that you can load on your phones, and then you'll be able to access all your information, accounts, and items like that from your phone. And it's going to be pretty neat. So I don't have an exact date for that because we want to make sure the website is working before we roll out the third phase, because the website just basically gets pushed over to the app, and I want to make sure the website's good before we push it over to the app. So we're excited about that. A lot of new changes. It's going to give you a lot more capability as residents to keep track of all your accounts and things that you like to do and sign up for fitness classes, and you'll have more capability. So we look forward to that. So I do ask that you have patience with us as we do roll this out. I mean, we went through this with TEI and it didn't go very well, but I'm really confident that the North Star process is going to work a lot better. So having said that, just asking for your patience there. I'm going to roll into just some...
Walter, can I just add one thing that we had talked about? There is one thing homeowners will have to do in this rollout, and that is if you have payment systems set up within currently now TEI, but if you do ACH payments for your bills, you will need to put in your routing numbers again in North Star. So you don't assume, and I know marketing will remind us all of that because it's what we do, my wife and I, but you will have to put in new routing numbers in North Star. Am I correct, Walter?
You're right. So definitely when you get logged back into North Star, then go ahead and check your payment, your setup for your payments to make sure that they're correct. You're probably going to have to put it all back in and mix with your routing numbers and account numbers. But yeah, definitely check that out.
The only other ad, we are, I think, working on auto pay. A lot of people use auto pay to pay their bills. Didn't have that with TEI. That should be a feature available on North Star. But just say that because it's kind of an exciting thing, but we'll roll that out as well, I believe, right?
Yes, and marketing will be putting out information on how to manage all of this. So, okay, just a quick update on what staff's been up to in the last month or so. The staff's been pretty busy putting together the 2024 budget. We've been working on the 2024 operation budget. We've been looking at the reserves. We've been also looking at the capital requests. So a lot of budget items going on behind the scenes. We had a meeting with the finance committee so just last week, so they got a first look at it, and we're addressing their comments. You may notice different things from the admin office. Charlie here, she's been doing great. She's been looking at a lot of our old processes, and she's trying to modernize some of our admin processes, and some of that will be fillable forms instead of hard copy. So we're trying to push to get a lot of fillable forms out, so that makes it easier for you to fill forms out. So that's Charlie pushing that effort. Online, yes. So fitness, if you frequent the fitness center, they've hired a new instructor for Saturday classes. And the great thing is she's a retired physical therapist, so she brings a lot of experience with her. Now, unfortunately, if you like massages, the therapist broke her ankle, and she'll be out for 4 weeks. So that's why you can't sign up for massages right now. Food and beverage. Let's see. We got some really good feedback. They had Chuck Moses up at the Preserve the other day, and we got a lot of good feedback. So if you like live music, and they actually had a little place where you could dance up there, it looked like a lot of fun. So next time they have Chuck Moses, watch out for that if you like live music and like a little bit of dancing. Okay, something else coming here is in September 1st, again Friday, when we go to the new North Star software down at the Mountain View. You know how we closed the Mesquite and we moved the breakfast and lunch over to the Mountain View Clubhouse. So on Friday, you're going to see a new look. There's going to be a new menu with the breakfast and lunch service. It's going to be more towards the Southwest foods. And it's going to have a totally new look, and we're going to be using North Star, so the process of ordering and paying and stuff like that will be a little bit better. So I think you'll notice it's going to be a little bit better starting September 1st for breakfast and lunch at the Mountain View Clubhouse. Let's see, September 3rd, there's a luau that's going to be going on. You can get your tickets, but the interesting thing about this luau is they're also combining it as a fundraiser for those in Hawaii that were affected by that devastating fire. So it's also a fundraiser. So I'd get your tickets if you'd like to support that. Now, along with North Star, we're going to roll out a loyalty program. So there's going to be, and you can find, there'll be more information pushed out on that. But there's going to be a loyalty program that goes along with North Star at all of the food and beverage locations. So that's coming along. Also with North Star, we're now going to be able to put a little QR code on your receipt at the restaurant, and then you'll be able to go to that QR code and you'll be able to give us feedback. So it's going to be easier for you to give us feedback on what you think about the restaurants. Be kind. Alrighty, golf operations. Many of you have been watching the Hard Hat Chats, and so they're getting a new Hard Hat Chat recorded here, and hopefully that'll be out this coming week or next week. Pretty soon there'll be a new one. Matt reports that annual passes have surpassed budget by over 108,000 through February. So doing pretty good, of course, with the annual passes. The punch cards or play cards, I think, still have a ways to go to meet budget. Okay, so I'm excited for the golf carts. You know where we park the golf carts here at Mountain View Golf Course, and we put a big cover over that. That was only half of the project. The other half of the project is the same type of cover up at the Preserve over their golf cart parking area. We finally got the permit shook loose from the county, so after the Labor Day weekend, they're going to start the construction of that cover up at the Preserve. Also with golf, there's a couples event, and that's going to be on September 17th. So if you're interested in a couple event at golf, September 17th. Monsoon Madness, the next one round of that is September 7th. And then this coming weekend, Folds of Honor, September 2nd. And then there's the Golf Town Hall on September 6th here at the Desert View Theater. Okay, let me wrap this up here. I just got a couple more things. Operations and facilities, you'll see some of this. So actually, I will not cover, let me see here. In fact, I'm not going to cover any of this because Dove's up next, and he's going to actually show you some pretty pictures and slides. So that'll be a lot more exciting. And finally, Patrol. We can't forget Patrol. Where's Dale? There he is. There's Dale. So Patrol, they're using a new software we developed. So they've got a new software package, which they track a lot of their different operations and pass down logs. So they're using that since the 1st of August. And Dale has been planning the next round of senior safety seminars. Those are pretty popular. We had a few this year, so he's in the process of planning those. So he'll publish information on when those come up next. So Dan, that completes my overview, and Dove is next with a facilities.
All right, thank you, Walter. Dove, it's all you.
Thank you. Okay, so I get to come up here and talk about our reserve projects, which is one of my favorite subjects, believe it or not. Some of the things we've been covering in the past few months would be the LED lighting in our parking lot to improve our efficiency. We switched out incandescent lights with LED lights. It's supposed to enhance safety and improve efficiency and hopefully lower some of that energy savings. Can you guys hear me okay? No? Yes. Okay, sorry about that. Next slide, please. Here we have a little bit of numbers regarding that. To give you an idea, the old bulbs there were 150 watts, and the ones we put in only produce about 9 to 10 watts. So that's a significant 94% increase or decrease in energy usage, but the same amount of lighting. A couple other things that you might not think about that comes from that is we have my guys are going up and down less because there's a lot less of changing bulbs, although it's not non-existent. They still go bad, but just nowhere near as often when you compare the two. Next slide, please. We have started on, about a month ago, we started on common area walls in Unit 47. That is, first we did Edwin Road. Apparently there was an accident before my time here, and then some graffiti was painted on it. So we finally got that covered up, and it all looks much better now, as you can see on the picture on the right. The rest of the washes and a lot of the common areas that sort of face the streets are being done. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay, I have a little bit of an update. It's actually almost completely complete today. All the lines indicate, the yellow lines indicate things that were intended to be done. The green lines along the washes and some of the other common area wash type areas had already been done. So as of today, they should all be done in this area, which is designated Unit 47. That red line that's going across the left, apparently before my time here, there was a facilities committee that indicated since not a lot of people look at it and there's very little wear and tear, we did not do that line. So that's what that's for. And get the next slide, please. Many of you probably have already seen that we did repave the road up on Mountain View Drive. That was fun as far as traffic is concerned. We are finishing up manhole covers. I think it was a few board meetings ago, we had issues with the concrete there deteriorating and creating a lot of holes. So they're all being replaced and reconcreted. So now hopefully that problem will go away, at least for foreseeable future.
So Dove, let me add in there. So we took care of manholes here at the lower part of Clubhouse and also on Sandcrest, because those were the, we were getting some complaints about that, and there were some significant dips by those manholes. So those were taken care of.
Right, so not just on Mountain View. Excellent. Next slide. So here we installed a sidewalk along the west side of Sandcrest. This is because as we had seen during the season, a lot of pedestrians are walking right across from that dog park, and we hope this will help sort of alleviate that and also reduce trip hazards, things like that. All the proper ADA ramps were put in place, and I think it looks really nice now, so there's that. This next slide is something that hasn't been done yet, but I wanted to make sure that I address this situation. When these parking lots are put in before my time, a lot of erosion was happening, threatening the parking lot itself to literally fall into a wash. Pickleball court, sorry. This is over by the pickleball, the lower parking lot, the handicap spaces. So for now, on this picture, it just shows our temporary solution to stop a lot of water from running off into that area and directing it elsewhere. As of tomorrow, they're going to put in a permanent curb there to hopefully at least kick the can down a little bit farther and help stop with that erosion. So that's going to be good for us in the long run. Next slide. This is a golf, what is this? The golf court structure. It has to do with, we completely refaced the front of it. And another important point is that we're still not quite finished with that. We're going to put a cart path all the way around it so you can drive right up to it. So that's what's happening there. This next slide. This is the new signs that were put up. We're doing a lot of work on the Rincon renovation, Mesquite renovation project for a pro shop. So we have officially removed the old signs, had them redesigned to indicate that there's a pro shop there and what's all in that building. The one on the left is right at the entrance there, and then the one is the big one that comes in from Mountain View. Next slide. This is our project that's ongoing. It's taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. We have finished the Spanish tiles on top of this building here at Desert View. Now what we're doing is the TPO, or thermoplastic polyolefin, which is a membrane that goes on top. Those are the couple of guys that are doing the work for us now. We ran into a few snags, but I think we've cleared it up. As they were doing construction, there was a little bit of leaks, but we finally got that all taken care of. It's ongoing and should be done probably within the next month. And that's all I had. I did want to take a second to alleviate my insomnia and depression by being extremely thankful for your residents, board, and particularly Walter. I've just got here and he's been incredibly helpful. So thank you for all that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dov, for that update. Good pictures. All right. We are headed now for an update on the Mountain View golf course renovation. Matt's going to lead us through that. But before he does, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate, Matt, what you have been doing relative to this golf course renovation. He literally is living there almost every day. He's driving that golf course, interacting with the workers, interacting with Paul Halleck, our golf superintendent, the architect, and he's really been doing a great job of keeping the board informed of that progress. It's just an incredible amount of work and an incredible amount of hours that you've dedicated. So Matt, thank you very much for doing all that you are doing. I know you're not going to stop until it's all over, but I just wanted to thank you publicly for that work. So thanks, bud.
Cool.
All right, I'll let you take over. And actually, he's going to do strat plan too, so you can just keep on trucking.
Can you hear me, Patty? All right. I'm not allowed to say, my wife told me I have to speak into my mic, but that's how I check. First slide, Joey. First thing I want to talk about is the project itself. I want you to know that the project is on budget. It is not on the timeline that we were all hoping for. And I'm going to go into some detail about where we're at and what we're trying to accomplish. First thing I wanted to do was identify who the key players are and why I do what I do on a daily basis. Steve Robeson owns Desert Reflections, and the project got off to a poor start. And the second person there is our course architect. That's the gentleman we hired to interface with the construction firm. And Mike got Steve's attention, and Steve has been on ground for the last 2 months, personally supervising the project and hopefully delivering what I'm going to tell you he's supposed to deliver when he's supposed to deliver it. Marvin Mills is our irrigation consultant. Marvin's the guy that makes sure that everything he put in a plan is actually going into the ground. And so Marvin's out here every week as well. Paul is a true employee, as you all know. I call him the conscience of the project. Everything I know, Paul teaches me. But he makes sure that what we're supposed to get construction-wise is precisely what we're getting. And then 3 of us here on the board, Dan and Mark Eckert and myself, have been involved in all of the construction meetings we've had trying to get this project moving at a pace that we could all live with. But I want to reiterate, the project is on budget. Anybody that says it isn't, that's not true. The only change order that we had that came out of our, what do we call that, extra money? The contingency was $40,000 for sand. Everything else was purchased at the price that we contracted. And so we're doing well as far as the budget's concerned. Next slide, Joey. And so it became painfully obvious to many of us that the project wasn't going to be delivered when the original dates were established, which was they were going to get the construction done by 15 September. After a couple of months of construction meetings, we said, okay, you got your story, now we got ours. Here's what you have to deliver to us by 2 October. And so we want to have 9 holes of play open. Those holes would be 10 through 18. We wanted to have the driving range rebuild completed, a massive undertaking. And of course, the golf shop was moved to the old Mesquite Grill. A snack bar is being opened. Denise has been facilitating the coordination and synchronization of those activities. And Dove just showed you the range ball building facelift that was provided. So an awful lot of things got pulled together here over these last several months as we're trying to hit this 2 October date. I will point out that we are having another construction update following this meeting. We're meeting with the president of the company to get his latest assessment. Next slide. So let me take you through the course in pieces, starting with irrigation. Irrigation's the good news story. The main line's complete on the back 9 and the driving range. The irrigation laterals are complete on every hole. That means all the sprinkler heads for the back 9 are installed and operating. Irrigation for all the greens is completed. The irrigation for all the tee decks, the last tee deck was number 10, was completed yesterday. And the driving range landing area, all the irrigation out there where we hit our balls is complete. The driving range tee deck is under construction, and so that irrigation initiative has not started. Next slide, Joey. Bunkers. There are 15 bunkers that are already completed. The bunkers are lined, they're fully drained, and they've got beautiful sand. I just came back from Pebble Beach. Our sand will rival what I played in out there. There are 4 bunkers that are not started yet. They're on number 11. I'm sure that they're being started today. The Finnish crew was moving to those bunkers this morning. And then there'll be 2 additional bunkers. So we got to finish 4 on 11, and then we'll have 2 bunkers, one in the north practice area and one at the chipping green that will have to be installed as well. Next slide, Joey. T-decks. For all my friends that are lady golfers, welcome to, you're now being treated like you actually are a first-class citizen. The T-decks are beautiful, and they're complete. The T-decks that we have that are completed are 12 through 14. I'm sorry. The ones that are totally complete are 15 through 18. We've got 3 sets of tees that are ready to be sodded, and they're going to be sodded early next week, and that's 12 through 14. And the other 2, 10 and 11, the finish work has to be completed, and that probably will not happen until after the bunkers are done on number 11. Next slide. And so, sodding. The biggest thing that Paul is fighting for is to get all of our playing surfaces into the best condition possible before we open on 2 October. So in front of every one of our greens, if you remember, if you've been here as long as me, the water runs off the front of the greens, the salts accumulate, and we burn out the front of the greens every year. Not going to happen anymore because every green has been sand capped. Probably some 40, 50 feet down from the green was dug out, drainage was installed, 4 inches of sand was laid over that drainage, and then the turf was relayed. And so the approaches into the greens are going to be excellent. And we've completed all of that work on holes 12 through 18. We haven't started on 10 and 11 yet. Fully grassed holes, the ones that I will give the company credit for having completed is 18. Holes 11 through 17 are in various stages of being finalized. Grassing's obviously the last thing that gets done. And we haven't started any of our grass work on number 10 yet. Next slide. So the concrete work. Putting in the main line across the golf course, several panels of concrete had to be torn out to install the main line irrigation. And so those cart path repairs have been made across the entire course, which is good news. That happened this past week while I was gone. The cart path from number 9 to 10 is a work in progress. They have started to pour the concrete. The driving range apron, all the concrete behind the driving range, the putting green, all the concrete around the putting green, and then all the concrete that was by the chipping green, it was all broken. It's all been removed. And so the area is being prepped for new concrete to be laid. I expect that to happen in the next week as well. Next slide. You can't read this. But what I want you to know was we didn't get a playbook at the beginning of this construction project. And Dan kept asking me, Matt, shouldn't we have some kind of way to keep track? And so I put a little heat on Mike Gogol, who put a little heat on Steve Robeson, and I got a 1-week plan. Well, I ended up putting this matrix together so I could update it on a daily basis and provide it to my mates here on the board and to Lee Lexell, the chairman of the golf committee, and to Walter, so we could all track the progress. And so you can imagine how pleased the president of the construction company is to have a scorecard sent to him every day. But if you don't want to give me the plan, I'll give you the plan. So the whole idea is when that chart goes green, we'll be playing golf. And that's what we're driving them towards. And that's the last slide I have.
Matt, thank you. Before you get into the strat plan, I just wanted to mention it's not just all about the back 9 and the driving range. Hole number 1, the main line is in on hole number 1. And if you drive, well, if you go outside of the restaurant at Mountain View, you'll see that they're putting in the main line on hole number 9. So they're moving. I mean, they're not just stopping with the things we want on October 2nd. They're moving on, and that's the expectation all of us have, Mark and Matt and I have when we meet with the contractor again today. So Good update, Matt. Thank you very much. Come to the September town hall, golf town hall. We'll know more then than we know today, obviously, but it's another good way to hear more. So thank you, Matt.
Cool. Okay, I want to give you a quick update on where we're at in our strategic plan process. For those of you that haven't been here from the beginning of this journey, we actually, first slide, Joey. We actually started this process. Our commitment started back in January, where we began to look for a contractor. We went through that process and we selected the McMahon Group, an industry leader, to come in and help us put a quality strategic plan together. And next slide, Joey. And so the first phase was called the community engagement phase. And this is where we put our focus groups together. McMahon Group executed 5 focus groups. 1 was with the board, 1 was with Walter and his staff, and 3 were with residents like yourselves. We had 3 of those focus groups with 30 different resident participants in each of those sessions, so McMahon Group could get some background foundation information to put together the survey that everyone had an opportunity to complete. When they built the draft survey, they sent it to the board, and I'm proud to say that we sat down as a collective team, and we went through the survey and refined it, approved it, sent it back to a McMahon Group, and that was the survey that you all got to participate beginning on the 17th of July. We originally planned to have the survey window open for 2 weeks. We extended that window to 8 August, and I'm proud to tell you that this community had a 45% participation rate in that survey. So you can be very proud. We're ahead of the norm that the McMahon Group sees in participation. So I appreciate that. So the last bullet up here that doesn't have a check mark on it is the survey data analytics that are ongoing as we speak by the McMahon Group. They've taken all the analytics back. They're going to produce a report that they're going to send to us. Basically, they're going to analyze all the things that you told them. And they're going to also compare us against other like-type communities. I tell you all that. We expect to get within the next week the first draft of that report. When we get that report completed, that will wrap up our phase 1 activities of producing the strategic plan. When we get that report will be made available to all of you as residents. But that will serve as the foundation for the work. Next slide, Joey. So I just put this in here. This is McMahon Group propaganda, but I loved it. It clarifies exactly what we're doing. The survey will have significant standalone value and impact, and it will be essential in clarifying our community strategy and in developing our future facilities master plan. Voice of the customer. It's what you're telling us is what's going to be the foundation for how we proceed into phase 2. Next slide, Joey. And so what I've simply put here were the bullets, the process that we're going to walk through as a board, your strategic planning body. And first thing that will happen is after we get to receive and review the survey report, is we will receive a strategic issue survey, we the board. Each of us will be required to complete a survey for the McMahon Group. And then we'll have another meeting with the McMahon Group to discuss that. And after we do that session, we get what we call a pre-retreat packet. In other words, they're going to prep the board members for how we're going to go through the actual planning sessions. And for your benefit, the first strategy workshop is called Direction Setting. It will be conducted on 29 September. Dale sitting here. We're going to spend 3 hours doing budget work in the morning, and we're going to spend 4 hours that afternoon in strategy workshop number 1. Strategy workshop number 2 is called action planning, and that will be conducted on 30 September. All of that activity will lead to our outcome, which is a strategic plan, which we will then brief back to you all. And with that strategic plan, we will have developed action plans. Walter's new best friend is how will the staff put into motion what it is that we, the community, say are the strategic issues we need addressed. Dan, that's all I have, if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. I reminded myself while you were doing that of a funny story about our golf adventure with Mountain View. Matt and I were in a meeting in, I think it was July. Mark was out of town. And we had 4 other people there, the architects. Paul was there. The construction contract president was there. The construction company president was there as well. And I looked at Matt and I said, you know what? You and I are the only 2 people not getting paid here. Just want to remind you. So thank you, Matt, for all that work. Okay, Campbell, you are now able to tell us about the financial health of the HOA.
Okay, thanks. Joy, the next slide, please. What you see there is our cash position as of August 22, about a week ago. Adding up all the columns on the left, or the column on the left, adding up all the figures, we have about $12.7 million in cash and investments. Holding steady. If you recall, about 6 months ago, we were kind of having a financial crisis with several banks failing, so we've been keeping a close eye on our cash positions and happy to report that the cash levels are holding steady and we can certainly pay our bills with no problem. Next slide, Joey. What you see here, this is new this time. We haven't done this before, but I have color-coded the positives and negatives in our kind of summary financial statement. And a shout out to Doug Boakland. If you're here, raise your hand. He suggested this, and I thought it was a very clever idea to put in kind of stoplights. Green bands are for positives, red bands are for negatives. You can see at the bottom, red ribbon there. We did not have a very good month in July. We lost or had a $105,000 loss. The budget had us losing only about $29,000, so you had a difference of about 270% differential there. Not a good look for the 1 month. The green band at the top is kind of the HOA, if you will, the administration, your community service fees, general administration services, facilities, things like that. You can see basically before amenities are factored in, it made $305,000 profit. Some of that's because of lower property taxes that were accrued. Some of it is the level 5 staffing that we're not using because we put level 5 on hiatus. The real weak spots you can see are golf and food and beverage, the usual suspects, if you will. Golf, we lost $308,000 for the month, mainly because the preserve course was closed for 3 weeks. So no revenue generation there, plus you're using a lot of sand and fertilizer and seed for the aeration. That costs money. But really the thing that was most concerning to me is the food and beverage net income of a $92,000, almost $93,000 loss. It was just a bad month. Bad revenue, higher costs, no real explanation for it other than we just were not using the food and beverage in July. Next slide, Joey. The next slide here is year to date. Something I like to look at because 1 month does not make a trend, but for 7 months you can kind of see where we're coming. Things look a little bit better. The bottom line is now green at $553,000 profit versus the budgeted year to date of $173,000. So we're certainly doing a lot better. But why is that? You can see the green line at the top. Again, at the HOA expenses, we're just not accruing the expenses that we thought we'd be doing. And we do have a little higher revenue, but not much. Basically, it's expenses. Golf is doing better than this we thought. The subsidy we thought would be at this point in 2023, $714,000 subsidy or loss. It's actually coming in at 424. And the reasons for that is a lot of it is equipment we ordered has not been delivered yet. So don't expect this positive number to continue. Also, we haven't used as much as sand, fertilizer, and other type of utilities with the courses being closed that we thought we would do. So I don't expect that to continue to be such a good number. Again, getting into the biggest weak spot, which is food and beverage. Same story. We're just not generating the revenue that we need to generate in the food and beverage. Now, Walter went through a lot of the new programs that are going to be initiated starting next month, so hopefully those programs will start to show this trend reversing itself. Next slide, Joey. I kind of also broke out food and beverage here, month to date, year to date. You can see where the weak spot is in food and beverage is basically the Mountain View restaurant and banquet operation. A little bit in the preserve, but not as much in the preserve as you would expect. 2/3 of the losses are coming from Mountain View. Year to date, you can see the bottom line there. I didn't really color code this, but the bottom line there on the year to date in the right-hand quadrant, lower quadrant, we're basically on the preserve at break even. We're compared to the budget. So it isn't necessarily the preserve that's the problem as I see it. It's the Mountain View Bar and Grill. Next slide, Joey. Cost of goods sold, for those who like the ratio analysis, cost of goods sold, very, very high. Overall, food and beverage, 41% for the month of July. Again, also 41% for cost of goods sold. This should be, I'm not a restaurant guy, but I'm told it should be in the mid-30s. So the costs, there's a problem there. We need to ferret that out and figure out what's going on. Beverages, I think, are also kind of more or less in line. You get to the preserve, food and beverage, 55% cost of goods sold. There's something not right there. We got to research that and figure out what it is. And Terry, our finance director, is going to start to dig into that to see what's going on there so we can make these corrective measures. Next slide, Joey. Wages. Wages is half the cost of operations. So about 50 cents on every dollar that we spend is on wages. And you can see the three biggest users of wages are food and beverage and golf. And I circled this. In food and beverage for the month, we're 25% ahead of budget and wages, 9% year to date, and also up the upper right-hand quadrant, we're 18% higher than we need to be for year to date. So, I mean, compared to 2022. So we need to work on wages a little bit, maybe get better ideas of fully staffed versus regular staffing and get kind of hands around that. And lastly, Joey, the last slide I have is our kind of major capital spending items for the second half of the year. It was already mentioned, both of them. The first one is the $838,000 we have spent on the Mountain View paving. That was only budgeted at $750,000, so you can kind of get the idea of how inflation is really hurting us. And the last one is the Desert View roofing project. Still has $112,000 yet we haven't spent yet. That's about $336,000 overall. We still have about $112,000 left. So the rest of it, if you add it up, 2/3 of it is the paving of the $1.2 million we're going to spend, and the other kind of is the $112,000, and the rest is kind of just odds and ends. And that is the update, Dan.
Okay, thank you. I do like the red and green. I think it did kind of help everybody quickly identify where the positives are and where things that need a little bit of attention are. So thank you for that. I will make one comment, and I think, Terry, you're here. If I remember right, we talked about revenue. We were curious how the Mesquite closure affected our revenue. And I think for the month of May, June, and July, the revenue from the current bistro will certainly be changing to the Brook, but the current bistro, which is breakfast and lunch, similar to the Mesquite, that revenue compared to the Mesquite over the last couple of years was up about 10%. So we didn't see a decline in those revenue dollars, which obviously we had hoped for, we thought would occur. And I think it's a testament to the F&B group, Alan and his staff, that we made a good transition, and people continue to go there for their breakfast and lunch, eat out time. So anyway, thank you very much. Just want to make that comment. Okay, I am now on, so I'm going to give you an update on bylaws. Okay, Joey, let me put my cheaters on here because I don't want to miss a word. Can you hear me okay? Okay, cool. All right. Last meeting that we attended, and that was in the June meeting for the board, there were a proposal to change some bylaws. And I'm going to go through that with you very quickly. I'll give you an update of the comments that were made in the month of July on that proposal. We went out for comments for 21 days. So I'll give you an update on that, and then we'll move on to what will likely be a motion. There were essentially two things that we wanted to address. The first was relating how the board can handle member vacancies that occur and no homeowner decides to run for that vacant term. Hopefully that doesn't occur, but it can. And it's much better for the board to have bylaws in place that are clear enough that they can act on, as opposed to having to, at that moment, make something up. So that was the first proposed change. I'll go through it in just a second. Second proposed change is a better definition of the term homeowners in good standing in the current legal language, and updated qualifications as agreed upon by the board. This is important to qualify new board members and also election committee members as per our CC&Rs and our bylaws. So we really wanted to put some definition on homeowner in good standing. What's that mean? Well, if you ask everybody, you'll probably come up with 2 or 3 things that everybody can agree on, but there's also other stuff. So we wanted to put some definition on that issue. Next slide. Okay, let's deal with the first one. The report back from the comments are as follows. 42 comments were received from homeowners, 20 of which were in favor, didn't have anything to say. 8 had some grammar suggestions, which were, for me, they're always good suggestions, but nothing negative to say about that. So you had basically 28 out of the 42 that were in, I would consider, complete agreement with this bylaw change. 6 people requested Section 4 use of the appointment of past candidates. That has come up in the past. When Don Grimm left us from the board in, I think it was March, people said, hey, you need to go back to the last election and pick the last person that didn't make it on the last election cycle. The board thought about that and decided that they really wanted to come up with something a little clearer on that than having to go backwards and kind of appoint someone that didn't get voted in by homeowners. That was 6 people. 5 people wanted more information on code of conduct, which is good. Code of conduct policy is online. It is extensive. It guides all of us in what is expected of us when we live here. So the code of conduct is already in place. Please read it if you don't know it, because it goes into a lot of detail about the expectation of what all of us have of each other when we live in Saddlebrook. And 3 were curious about member or spouse of member relative to eligibility. It's kind of a weird thing. This is in our CC&Rs, where it refers to being able to run for the board, that you can be a member or the spouse of a member. Well, the reality is each lot in HOA 2 gets 1 vote. one vote. And those lots can be owned by multiple people sometimes. Typically, it's 2 people. So somebody has to be the voter. And if you had it with multiple people, you'd have to figure out who that voter was going to be to represent the lot. It is important in our CC&Rs and also now in our bylaws that we represent typically the member that votes, whoever it is, and their spouse as being able to run for the board or be able to be on the election committee. Those 2 people need to be represented, and that's why that's there. It's really kind of a semantics issue, but it's important. It's important that the member or the spouse of a member have the same rights as anyone to be able to be on the board or be on the election committee. Hope that makes sense, because that's what it is. Okay, so let me take you through the number 1 change real quick. Next one, Joey, thank you. Proposed change 1, I'll refer this real quick because this is what everyone saw and was able to make comments associated to it. Essentially, it's about what happens if someone vacates, a board member vacates their position. What we're adding is, if no member in good standing submits their resume for candidacy, the board may vote to appoint a member in good standing to serve until the next election. And that really is about the last 6 months of that. If there is a board member that vacates their position and it's longer than 6 months until the next election, there is a special election. So if it's outside of that, then the board can appoint. Next slide, Joey. There is a word may in there, and I just wanted to make sure, because there was a couple of people asked that comment. If no member in good standing submits, then the the resume for a candidacy, the board may vote to appoint a member in good standing to serve. May vote. And that word was intentional because honestly, if you're within 3 months or who knows, well, I can't predict what may happen in the future in terms of in terms of board vacancy, but if it's close, the board may just say, hey, we're going to not do this. We'll stick with the 6 people that's left to go ahead and fill out until the next election. So it gives them the option. So that's a clarity issue. Next slide, Joey. Proposed number 2, this is all about homeowner in good standing. And I tried to refer to where that came from, where it is today, and basically it just suggests that you need to be a homeowner in good standing. And that comes from our bylaws, Section 3, Article 3, Section 1. Joey, go to the next one, please. In that same section, we are suggesting the number of qualifications, and this refers back to the slide before. The number of qualifications, the board of directors shall consist of a number of members indicated in the articles, of which today is 7, who are members in good standings as defined as members or spouse of a member, have owned property in HOA2 for at least 12 months prior to submitting their resume for the board candidacy, physically present in the community for at least 9 months of the year during their term of office, cannot be 30 days in default of any payments or dues, fines, or other charges due the corporation, and cannot have any active code of conduct violations at time of resume submittal. Doesn't mean that you look back and if you ever had a code of conduct, you can never run for the board. Doesn't mean that. What it means is if you have a current active code of conduct violation. Many times code of conduct violations end up having some remedy that suggests you may not be able to use an amenity, may not be welcome at the restaurants or the golf course, on, for a period of time. If it is active, that would preclude you from running for the board. Okay, next slide, Joey. quick summation of all of this: member and spouse of a member, owned property 12 months, resident at least 9 months, current payments in payments to the corporation or the HOA, no code of conduct. Next slide, Joey. There's one last thing that got added, and I just want to clarify it with you. It's kind of a clarity issue more than anything else. But the election committee had some questions about it. And down at the bottom, and this is section 5, or it's Article 5, section 2, and you can read that. For all subsequent elections, the board of directors shall appoint, and on and on and on. We need to insert in that the election date, which no one could actually have a clear view of what's election date. So this is clearing that up. Election date shall refer to the final day to accept votes from members for election to the board of directors of HOA2. A lot of times, and let me just continue, I guess, votes will be accepted for a minimum of 21-day period up to the election date. So the election date was, well, okay, when was it? Is it when you start taking votes? Is it when you end? This clarifies that. It's when you end. That's the election date. And it also suggests that the board can allow voting to take place as a minimum of 21 days or later. The last vote we had was actually 21 days in March, or was planned for 21 days. Prior to that, last fall, the 2022 voting period was 30 days. That came from primarily back in the day when there were hard voting ballots. You had to go get a ballot, you got to mail the ballot. There was obviously 3,100 and so many ballots mailed to homeowners. It took a long time to get that process through the system, and that was a 30-day period. We believe today with the electronic balloting that we do, which is very efficient, everything kind of comes out very, very quickly, that 21 days as a minimum would be more than enough. So anyway, that's a board decision, but at least it's clarifying issues that the election committee had brought up and wanted clarity on. So that's a couple of grammatical adds to this proposal. Okay, Joey, here we go. So it is my motion to the board to accept these changes as outlined in this presentation. So that is my motion. I'm going to sit down. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Sean has seconded that motion. Are there any comments from the board? Sure.
So I'd like to make a comment, and it doesn't specifically have to do with, this specific motion, just on a general comment that I wanted to make. Being on the board, we really struggle with being able to make the right decisions for the community. Previously, we heard that we had some really good turnout on some of the surveys, up to 45%. The disappointing thing is that, as you can see, we got 42 comments on this survey out of probably 5,900 residents. It really makes it difficult for the board, for us to represent all of you. We have to make our decisions based on what we think is the best thing for the overall community. And so when we only get a small percentage of people responding to a survey, a few hundred people, which maybe represents 5% of the residents, it really makes it very difficult for us to do that. So we have to make our best decisions. So all I would ask is, please talk to your neighbors. Ask you, when we get these surveys out, there's a lot of work that goes into putting them in. Please try to at least answer the surveys, even if it's not a hot issue for you, because it's really important for us to hear what your feelings are. Otherwise, we have to make our decisions based on the best thing we think is for the overall community, all 5,900 people, and that's not always easy. So anyway, that's really the only comment I wanted to make.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments from the board? All right. Are there any comments from homeowners that would like to come up? We invite comments on motions. You can use a 2-minute period to give us your feedback. If you have comments, have concerns, we use that information, obviously, and then we're going to vote. So, any comments? I think, Dan, you did a great job. No, I'm just kidding. I know you wanted to say that. I know you wanted to do that. Okay, so there's no comments. I really appreciate, though, what people have given as feedback and the information that we have. So, having said all that, the motion is to approve what has been outlined in this presentation, the changes to our current bylaws. So that motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much for that. And I will tell you the process works. We will also get some legal input in this before we update our bylaws with the actual wording. So it might take a month or so to get the actual online bylaws ready to go. But we now have that direction and we can get that taken care of. Okay, the next one is ALC by Bobby.
It's perfect. Okay. You can hear me? You can hear me? Oh, good.
There you go.
Ready for me? I'm here to talk about the proposed update to the ALC guidelines that went out for 21-day comment in July. So Joey, next, there you go. It was posted for 21 days. We received 66 responses, and of those 66 responses, we categorized it into 74 comments. Some people responded on multiple topics. Now, saying that, of the 74, 14 comments were off topic, not pertinent to the proposal. They were about dogs, the common area golf course, the common areas, etc. So in my analysis, I excluded those 14 because they were neither pro nor con concerning the proposal. Next slide, please. The proposal in itself, as you can see here, currently the ALC only gives out 90-day permits, and every permit you are allowed an extension, 30-day extension. The first extension is $25, and succeeding extensions are $50. Through our analysis, we found that those pricings of the pricing of those extensions, etc., was instituted to try to incent homeowners to get projects done, and they weren't necessarily working because a number of major projects, which we've defined here, being the casitas, additions, golf cart garages, and swimming pools, were taking longer. Close of escrow projects were also, not all, but most of them were taking longer than the 90 days. And in some cases, people were being charged up to or over $600 in extension fees. So we thought that was a little excessive and went back to the drawing board, talked to other communities, other Robeson communities, and came up with a proposal that said for major projects, we're going to give you a 6-month permit. It'll cost you $30, and you can get extensions for 90 days at $15 an extension. $15 for 90 days. For all the other projects, they are 90-day permits, $15, same as they are now, but the extensions are going to be for 90 days, and they will also, be $15. So for the minor projects, there's no cost change, and in fact, extensions are less expensive. And we're trying to help out the people that have the major projects. Not to say that we don't have a few folks that lag. They get a permit and don't do any work, and we're trying to come up with methods to ensure work progresses. But if you go to the next page, here's the results of our survey. In terms of people that agreed with the proposal, 45 of the comments that we received were categorized as in agreement, and that's 77%. There were another 11 that did not agree with the proposal for various reasons. You're changing the cost, didn't necessarily agree with the extended links, a proverbial comment that we get is you have too many rules and it's complicated, don't make any changes. Anyway, those 11 comments were, I can't read my number here, 17% or 18% of the results. And then we had 3 comments that kind of fell into a category that I couldn't necessarily categorize. Comments had both positive and negative. Some of the responses had both positive and negative comments. I didn't know which category to classify them in, so I just kept them as uncategorized. And one, which I didn't know how to categorize at all, which was why. One word, why. So that is the analysis of what we have. And next slide, Joy. I would like to make a motion to the board to approve these updates as presented. Dan?
All right, thank you, Bobby. If you want to hang out for a minute, if there's some questions, we can get to that. So I will, in representing Bobby and the ALC, make this motion to the board that we approve the updates in this presentation to the guidelines as this presentation was presented. So, anybody want a second? Mark seconds that motion. Any board comments? Cool. I saw the penny drop.
Can I use this? There we go. I can use this. Bobby, thank you. I never dreamt I was ever going to be on this board. And I never dreamt I was going to be involved in the things I've become involved in over the last 8 months. But I got to salute Bobby and her team and anybody else that's lived in this community that served on the ALC. When you drive through our community, by the way, let me give you some foundation. If you took the average price of a home that was sold last year in HOA2, we have $1.8 billion of real estate in this community. And if you drive around this community and you look at the individual properties, and we're almost 3 decades old, the ALCs today and in the past deserve a big thank you. And I point that out. I point that out to each one of us because this is connected to another initiative that we've got. Our individual properties are being well taken care of, so thank you to each of you. And we want the same thing for our common areas. Because when you send me notes or you write in the social media and you talk about property values, maintaining property is how you maintain or enhance property values. And so all this work that you're doing and the other work that we're trying to do is focused on making sure that your property values continue to appreciate here in our community. Thanks, Bobby.
So can I assume that's a yes to the motion? All right. Any other comments from the board? Nope. Good stuff. Comments from residents. You need to come down if you want to make comment, which is all good. We have microphones here. There's 2 in the front. So come on down, give us your name, where you live, lot number, unit number, and you'll have a couple of minutes to give us your comments.
Pat Lenz, Unit 45, Lot 2. My question regarding this is I look at the schedule, I see no stop date. In other words, a homeowner can keep asking for extensions. An example is the house next to us has had extensions since they closed on November 17th, and nothing has yet been done. I think the rules are good. I think that the accomplishments of the committee are outstanding. But right now, they have no end. $15 for 3 months. You just don't go out to lunch 1 month, and you get to save on your costly landscaping issues. Thanks. And thank you, Bobby, for all that you do to help us.
Thanks, Pat. Yes, ma'am.
And Gravel, Unit 42. I, too, thank the board and all the committees for all the work that you do. I would also like to propose a movement for the board at some time for your consideration that all future movements for the board for your surveys not be presented in June, July, or August when most members are not here. I think you would get more feedback. A lot of emails were going out for those members that are full-time members here. I know that I personally sent out hundreds of emails to friends who were on vacation, on cruises, with grandkids that were not available. I was helping people try to find their...
I hate to interrupt, I really do, but we're trying to get comments associated to this motion.
And that is my motion, that I was trying to get people's feedback so that I could have them vote for these motions so that you could get good feedback for these elements, that you could get the best feedback possible so that you could make the best decisions for these elements so that we could get the best feedback on the decisions that are being made today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Another person, come on up.
Hi, Linda Oberski. I live in Unit 43, Lot 22. When I was back here in June, there were some other elements of the ALC that were brought up. One in particular that kind of stuck with me was, what do you do about people using the cones in their driveways and stuff? Some of these other things that we discussed back that I thought were going to be in the survey have not been addressed today, so I'm just curious as to why some of these things were left out.
I think that's in the rules and regs. That's in the other one that's coming up.
Oh, it hasn't come out yet?
It's not the ALC.
Okay, because
It's
part of it...
not this one.
Okay, my mistake. Thank you very much for all your work.
No problem. Come on down.
Hi, my name is Frank. I have no idea what unit or lot number is.
What's your name?
Frank.
What? I'm sorry?
Frank.
Frank what?
Moore.
Frank Moore. Okay.
Can we comment
So you do live in HOA 2?
Yes.
Okay. You're sure about that part?
I am sure about that.
All right. Thank you.
Can we comment on anything like the common area projects, or is this just with...
This is ALC. This is a motion associated to ALC. Okay, cool. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none and no more board comments, I'll review this motion one last time, that it is to accept what Bobby put in her presentation associated to the permitting of the larger projects, obviously, that she went through. So, having said all that, all in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate all the work that you have done, especially on this and obviously everything else. I will ask the audience that you guys need to get together before you leave, because no one can leave here unless 10 people volunteer to get on the ALC. So you're going to have to come up with those names before you can walk out the door. But seriously, we do need volunteers. The ALC has a maximum of 15 people allowed on their committee. They currently have 5. And they're carrying a lot of water here to keep things going. And so they're anxious because they're getting late on some of the permitting. That's just not something they should be anxious about. We're very appreciative of the hard work they're doing, but we need other homeowners to step up and help us pull the wagon a little bit here. They really, really need some support. It's a fun thing to do. I've been in many of their meetings. So anyway, that's my plug. So you guys need to get together and see who the 10 are that you picked. Okay, the next one up is rules and regs. We're going to go over, Sean will go over what she presented at the June meeting, and then Ray Adams, the chair of the Rules and Regs Committee, will come up and give you a summation.
Okay, Joey, I've got my lavalier on, and this is going to be real quick. I'm not going to even have time to say, next slide, Joey, so I'm just going to go like this and switch it. All right, I did a presentation back in June for the Rules and Regulations document update, and explained why the Bridge the Gap team was formed, what we were going to do, and what was going on. It was changed because of clarity, brevity, and for easier understanding. Most of the changes were cosmetic, and there were 9 significant changes you had from July 24th till August 28th to look at each change. Next slide, next slide. Clarifications, like I said, a lot of them had to conform with the new Arizona revised statutes, which is one of them was delete the requirement for a copy of the lease, and it went in tandem with what the current practice is for the HOA2 administrative staff. Section 2.3 was about qualified renter. Next slide. Next slide, qualified renter. Article 5 was parking, and that was also because of to promote the awareness of the SB HOA2 parking rules, and it was to also address the disabled spaces. So we changed the proposed to talk about disabled spaces, plus we took out from the ALC in a different area and put it in this one about vehicle construction, inoperable vehicles, garage parking, and other parking areas. Again, you all had a chance to see all this. Section 7, I beg your pardon, Article 7, Section 712 was animals in reference to the Arizona revised statutes and the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. We wanted to clarify it for residents. Talked about service animals in the facilities. Then we went to Article 10, Section Pets. The rules for pets were scattered throughout the Rules and Regs document, and we wanted them all in one section so it would be easier to read. Pet restriction including but not limited to noise concerns. We put that in the same area. Then we proposed about the animals and their noise mostly. Article 10, Section 10.2, it says pets are not allowed on Mountain View or preserve golf courses at any time. Talks about commercial kennels, pets not being permanently kept or maintained outside, trying to protect our pets. Barking dogs and how that's taken care of with the Pinal County requirement as part of the Pinal County ordinance. Then we went on to garbage. We talked about garbage. We put it all in one particular area because it was spread out all over. And we came up with, excuse me, the proposed 4 areas. The one that's in question is about the trash containers not being placed on the curb before 6 a.m. That will be addressed. And then we changed to the instruction for contractors, the clarification for change and safety violations. Again, we changed it so it would be easier for you and easier for the contractors to know what's going on. We proposed where to put the porta potties and the street damage, which is a safety issue. And then signs, we talked about signs so we could avoid duplication. We wanted to be consistent with HOA 1. And we have 3 new types of signs: pet waste signs, traffic hazard warning signs, and unit event signs. So that was proposed to be changed. Again, with the current Construction and contractor signs, we propose that the signs may be erected in yards for the duration of the project and should be removed after 5 days of completion. And then the last thing was the change for schedule of fines, sanctions, and penalties. It was in the RRC with the exact amounts, and that changes due to inflation, so we wanted to update that. And we also eliminated section F, which is again about the rental agreement, which has to do with the Arizona revised statutes. So we had that change, and we also proposed that a $200 citation or fine will be assessed to the homeowner for each day materials are placed on the street. The fine will be issued by patrol as a citation. It's a safety issue. So our motion was to move that the board approve sending out the modifications for a 21-day community review and comment, which they approved. Like I said, it was out from the July to the 12th of August. And we wanted you to review that so you knew what we were going to talk about. And now the wonderful Ray Adams will come up and explain what rules and regulations has decided to do based on the comments they got from you all. Mr. Ray.
Speedy, speedy, speedy.
Okay, everybody hear me all right? Okay, well, my name is Ray Adams, and I am the chairperson for the Rules and Regulations Committee. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened with Bridge the Gap and what the results were. And I want to start by talking about what the Bridge the Gap actually is. It was an effort by both the ALC and the RRC. 2 members of each committee were selected, put together in a room with Sean moderating, and attempted to make the rules easier to find and easier to understand for the residents. It would hopefully move us closer to alignment with HOA 1. There are 3 sections where HOA 1 and HOA 2 will be congruent now. They were not before. It also proposed moving rules from the ALC to the RRC, which hopefully would take a little pressure off and even the load a little bit. We'd introduced some new rules, and we're going to talk about those. It resulted in the changes that were posted for resident comment from July the 24th to August the 12th. So I'm going to go over quickly what changed. I realize you've just heard from Sean in a rapid fire motion, just exactly what happened. But I'm going to talk about it just one more time to make sure everyone is clear. The first is the qualified renter rules. Essentially, we're simply changing those to conform with Arizona law. It's very simple. The Planned Community Statutes, Title 33, are being followed correctly by the staff at this point. They were not correctly referenced in the rules. So this is an effort to clean that up and make those 2 things in concert. The parking changes also helped conform to Arizona law. And we added the CC&R restrictions, which had not been published there before. Some folks took exception to that. But the CC&Rs, as you probably know, are the fundamental contract between yourselves as homeowners and the corporation. The animals were changed also to conform with Arizona law and federal law. Pets. The rules regarding pets were ported from the ALC without change. And they haven't been changed for the last 25 years. We did make a change in garbage in terms of the timing of when the garbage containers were actually placed at the curb. And you're going to hear a little more about that too. Instructions to contractors, those were strengthened, but they're essentially the same. Signs removed from the ALC. We added pet waste signs and spoke a little to the issue of traffic hazard signs. And I'll get to that a little bit later too. And finally, the fines were changed to conform with the Arizona revised statutes. And we did move the fine without change from the ALC to the RRC regarding materials on the streets. So how did the community react? Well, there was a focus on dog walking. Many disapproved of the rules only due to the dog walking rule. There were 66 folks who made no comments other than the dog walking rule, and were opposed to the changes for only that reason. In general, the rule changes were acceptable, and of course there was a strong negative reacting to the dog walking rule. Comments. There were 300 comments after we sorted through some and took a few out that really didn't belong there. Major categories, 140 of the 300 votes advocated for dogs walking on the golf courses. 41 objected to placing trash containers no earlier than 6 a.m. And 30 went to the effort to reinforce their opinion that there should not be a change in the dog walking rule. Well, we got reactions from both sides, right? There were also some minor categories, and I'll speak to those just briefly. 7 allowed dogs on restaurant patios. Folks wanted to have their dogs with them at the restaurants. 6 wanted to only allow dogs on the courses in golf carts. 5 supported cones in the driveway, and 4 opposed cones in the driveway. This is an issue that is essentially revolves around the preserve, where folks have placed cones in driveways in an attempt to stop contractors and other folks from using their driveways as turnaround areas. Some folks would like to see those cones be permitted, and some folks would not. There were 5 folks who wanted to allow contractor materials in the street for brief periods. 3 folks were against parking rules. 3 were against the rental cards. 3 thought that fines were excessive, and 3 felt that minor vehicle repairs should be acceptable either in the street or in the driveways. The major and minor categories constituted 83% of all the comments. There were an additional 46 comments made by 1 or 2 residents. And if anyone's really interested, I have a list and can show them to you. So, what do we do with this? The committee's take is that we should approve the bridge the gap recommendations and hold out an exception for the trash placement times. Those are the 41 people who objected to having that only placed on the morning of pickup. And we think that we should consider a rule to permit dogs on the courses. Let me hasten to add that we're only considering that rule, and that there are other stakeholders that have to be consulted. The other committees are engaged: the ALC, golf, finance committees, the staff who have an interest in this issue, the golf course management folks, Troon, dog park, and HOA1 needs to be consulted as well. So this isn't an issue that only affects the people who are residents. It also affects the folks who control our association. and those who those need a voice, and they haven't been given one yet. So, with all that said, I have two motions for the board to consider. The first is a motion to approve the Bridge the Gap recommendations with an exception for the trash placement times.
Okay, we have a motion. I will be the person to go ahead and restate that motion for the board, that we move to approve this Bridge the Gap recommendations, which we've just heard, with one exception, and that is the trash placement times. That will continue to be what it is today until, I assume, Ray, your committee meets and reevaluates that. So there's no change in what our current trash placement times are. That's the motion right now. Now let me give you a little heads up here, okay? So I know everybody wants to talk, and that's okay. We're here to hear your comments, but there's another motion coming, and Ray mentioned that, and that is to put the trash and the dog walking question, which wasn't really part of any of this presentation other than the trash thing, back to committee for them to evaluate and to give board recommendations, which is the process that we always go through for rule changes. So that'll be I think, coming up in just a minute, the next motion. So I want to be clear on what we're talking about here. So move to approve the Bridge the Gap recommendations with the exception of the trash placement. So I move that motion be accepted by the board. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Sean will second that. Board, do we have any comments? Ray, you did a great job explaining all of this. That's for doggone sure. Is there any comments from the homeowners on this motion? So I just want to be clear. I'm not trying to push down comments because that's not the intent, but we've got two things we're going to drive here through motions. So just want to be clear on what we're doing. So anybody want to talk about accepting Bridge the Gap with the exception of trash as being the new rules and regs? All right, come on down. Again, need a name and a lot number and a unit.
Andrea Mulberg, Unit 42, Lot 72. Andrea Mulberg, Unit 42, Lot 72. I just want to make sure that when it says you're approving it with an exception, it's not the only exception. That's what I'm not sure I'm clear about. Because I thought I heard the dog walking was going back to committee, so it would be not approving the dog policy as it currently is. That was just my, could you clarify that for me?
The dog policy is intended to move intact. In other words, dogs will still be forbidden on the golf course. However, the next motion that we have is going to address that. What we need to do before we can do anything is to get the Bridge the Gap recommendations approved. I hope that's an answer for you.
There's no rule, Andrea, there's no rule changes going on here except trash. That's it. The only trash thing that's being left out of this motion. So all of the rules that we currently have that are transferring to rules and regs, just like the Bridge the Gap presentation net, will be intact. Nothing will change.
So our comments about wanting to change that policy, therefore the Bridge the Gap accepting it as it is, are not relevant.
Right. So you'll probably have a comment. I'm guessing others will on the next motions. But anyway, that's what's going on. Yes, sir.
Dave Burgess, Unit 46, kind of just addressing what you just said. The dog walking policy is listed in the changes you're making, even though they're not changed.
No, there is no
They
change.
were up there in red on the new policy. And when you say
You said
you're
dogs are
approving
not
it,
allowed to walk
I
on the
think
golf
it
course.
should include the comment that it's going to be considered or reevaluated.
That's the
just
next
my
motion.
feeling,
That's
because
the-
when I see we're approving it, to me, we're saying this is how it is. And there's many residents, I've heard there's a petition with 1,000 signatures. I don't know if that's true. So that's my disagreement.
Okay. The next motion will clarify that, I believe.
But this motion doesn't address the clarification.
Right.
So I think, yeah, let's try to explain this. So there's no changes to the present rules. The present rule, which has existed for 25 years, does not allow dogs on the golf course. That's still the rule. We're simply moving it from where it was over to where it should have been, which is in rules and regs where people can find it easier. That's the only change that's occurring. But the only change that's actually was originally proposed was the timing of the garbage cans, and that's being moved back for further comment. So there will be a future investigation by rules and regs having to do with dog walking, okay? It's not, the investigation's not being done today, right now.
Why can't that comment be added? You've moved it, therefore it's a change.
But it's not a change. It's a change to the location only of where the rule was.
That sounds like semantics.
No, it's facts. It's a change, and that's what most of this is. If you look at the definition of what this was, most of this is simply, we had things in the ALC, which is architectural and landscape. It only deals with architectural and landscape of your properties. It doesn't deal with dogs barking. It should have never been in those sections. It should have been in rules and regs, which has got to do with how we live together, okay? All this bridge the gap was simply taking all those things that were in the wrong places and putting them in the right places. The only exception to that, really, was the garbage can timing, which we're now going to go back and relook at again instead of deciding to change it right now. So there will be a future analysis where there'll be, I'm certain, plenty of opportunity for future comments from
What's the
everyone
harm of
on the
mentioning
dog
that?
walking.
What is the harm of mentioning that here?
Well, you can mention it, but again, we're
In
not
the
addressing that issue today, so you can mention it, but I'm not sure what it accomplishes. You'll have plenty of opportunity in the future to everyone, all 5,900 residents, to give input, okay? So that is what will be part of what Ray and the committee will be handling in the future. So I think it was misunderstood that this was a new rule or something, or changing a rule. This is not changing anything. Any change will be looked at and be some future time after Rules and Regs does some work on it and does an analysis, which is what the next motion is about. So
it just looks like we're approving that policy, reapproving it when it's moved.
Thanks for the comment. We get it. Any other comments?
Hello, I'm Allison Lang, Unit 14, Unit 14, Lot 176. You can hear me now? Okay. So I had submitted a comment about the contractors being allowed to put a sign on the owner's property. And when you couple that with the ALC extending the length of the permit, I had this horrible vision of the project going horribly over, the sign being enormous, and the neighbors not being thrilled with that. So I had suggested that there be some restriction on the size of the sign they put on the property, as opposed to a billboard. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It could be hideous.
Okay,
I mean,
Bobby, isn't there a restriction of the size of the sign for the contractor?
We originally had a restriction in there, and there was discussion about what size should be done, should be allowed, and we decided to take the restriction off and just say reasonable size. The original intent was it should be outside as a real sign.
I just feel if you don't clarify it, it could be up there for a long time.
I think it's a good comment. I think that comment will be something Ray and his committee will consider, so it's a good comment. All right, no other comments? So the motion is as I described, to accept the Bridge the Gap with the exception of trash. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion carries. Okay, good.
The second motion that I'd like to request is a move to request the Rules and Regulations Committee consider, first, a change in the dog walking rules, and second, the trash placement times, so that both of those issues are aired appropriately. And we have an opportunity to consider all of the facts that would be involved.
All right, Ray, thank you. I will make that motion to the board that we move to request the Rules and Regs Committee consider change in dog walking rules on the golf course and trash placement times as they currently exist in the rules and regs. Okay, so that's a motion. Do I have a second? Mark seconds. Okay, board, do you guys have any questions that you want to put on Ray or others?
Do you really need a motion for that last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing it. We'll be on record as doing it.
Dan, I'd like to say that I'd like to thank Ray Adams for personally responding to about 50 emails that came to him, rules and regs, about dogs on the course, about walking on the course, about dogs not walking on the course. He did a tremendous PR job making sure that everybody was responded to. We have heard what you have to say. I appreciate the pictures of your puppies, but that's not going to change anything. If it isn't an Airedale, sorry. Folks, this is a very contentious issue, and if you put a gun to my head right now at 11:46 on the 30th of August and said, Sean, you've got to decide right now, dogs, not dogs on. I couldn't decide. So we've talked about it, Ray and I. We've got to take it back to committee, and like Ray said, he's got to get some more information from other stakeholders. We've heard from you. We know how you feel, and it was very obvious in the applause for a couple of comments that was made. It's a very contentious, emotional issue. So we want to hear from you, but if you sent us an email already, we have the list, we know who wrote to us, we know how you feel, that's great. But we don't want to go on here till 2 o'clock.
Okay, anyway, thanks, Sean. I assume you're on the fence. That's good.
I'm on the fence, but I think this motion needs to be approved, I think.
Okay, so it's on the board. There's no more comments from the board. Are there comments from the homeowners associated to this motion, which is, we've talked about it 5 times already? Let me tell you, let me address that, because that's a good question. I think there is an expectation that the Rules and Regs Committee will be judicious in what they do in terms of getting input. We've had this rule for 25 years. So I've told Ray, maybe I'm wrong, but take the time you guys need before you come back to the board, because it is a contentious issue, and we want to make sure our Rules and Regs group are in concert on what they believe and are recommending to the board. So I don't know, I can't put a time on it, but I got to believe it's sooner rather than later, but I can't put that, I don't want to put that on him. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. We're not going to put a time on it. If you want to comment, come on down.
Les Goins, Unit 31, Lot 15. And Milo, you've mentioned a couple times that we've had it, HOA2, for 25 years. Has HOA1 had the same thing for 25 years? If their yes goes on, or did they just change it recently?
I can't say, and take me as an opinion, okay, but Robeson never allowed dogs on the golf course. So I have to believe it was a transitional issue for them, but I can't tell you that. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm sure Ray's going to talk to HOA1 and...
Well, I know for certain that rule has been in place over there since 2011, at least.
Okay, 2011, I don't know.
And do we know, or can we hear about what they do to make this work for them, so the rest of us who are thinking about going one way or the other can realize that would work for us to adopt a similar situation? Yeah.
That, of course, is part of the input that we will be seeking.
Okay.
I can tell you this much already, and that is that during the initial implementation of this procedure at HOA1, there was some difficulty, and they did have to beef up the patrol for a while. They seem to have settled into a situation where the culture has kind of taken over and made this an acceptable thing for them. But you can expect that if we were to travel down that road, there would be a few bumps in that road.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Hey, come on over.
Cheryl Simpson, I'm in 44A, Lot 6. I'd just like some information on how the Rules and Regs Committee meets, how open you are to other people joining or commenting for your committee when this topic is discussed.
Well, the Rules and Regulations Committee is an open committee, and it consists of open-minded people. What we're trying to do is what everyone else here is trying to do, and that's to serve the community. And we want to do it in a respectful way, but we want to make sure that everyone who has an interest in this matter is consulted as well. So I can tell you that we will consider anything that a resident has to say as a part of the dialogue, and that we will work hard to try to come up with the best answer we can.
So with that in mind, how do you let the community know when you're going to meet?
We publish an agenda. We will meet the third Wednesday of September. That will be our next meeting.
Okay, is that by email blast?
That's online. It's online.
It's published online under the committees as the agenda.
Comes out in the Monday message. Okay, I just want to make that perfectly clear to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let me know if you're bringing an army. We might need a bigger room.
Well, I think you're going to get an army. Thank you.
Do we need patrol there too? All right, next comment.
Hello, Jerry Hack, Unit 36, Lot 18. Why don't you people just take this to a vote? And that'd give you a lot of information of what the community's feeling. Seems pretty simple.
Seems simple. There are voices that need to be heard, Jerry. So we want to make sure we hear all of them. And we will, if in fact something is recommended, we'll go out for comment again. That's the process that we use. And that is an inclusive process for all homeowners to be able to have a voice. That's what we're using. So it's been done, every rule and reg change, every ALC change, every bylaw change that I'm aware of, always go out for comments. Doesn't have to be. Board allows it, but we always do it.
But with the apathy of this community, and you can see it by the number of people who come to these board meetings, they don't even, probably 50% of them don't even know that this is coming up.
Could be. Yeah, could be. Anyway, thank you.
I'm going to watch that clock. Thank you for asking residents to comment on the dog policy. We thought that's what we were doing now. And apparently we misunderstood, and I'm part of the problem. I was told that you impressively responded to all those emails. Wow, thank you. I heard some of the comments you received were horrible. I'm sorry. At the last board meeting, I said I, as one of the dog people, we've never been a group, wasn't asking for money, just permission, and I'd even explained now how we can save some money. I thought this was a no-brainer because being dog-friendly is the trend, straightforward and easy, just have the same successful policy HOA 1 has had for decades, and we thought we had it before transition. Not everyone agrees that we should have that freedom. I checked with HOA 1 residents, GM, and staff. They like it. It's very popular. Creative compromises have been suggested. I'm still advocating the HOA 1 policy because that means no complicated schedules requiring more policing, simple, consistent, less confusion, less cost. Over 1,000 residents did sign paper and online petitions in favor. And this wasn't an organized campaign. We never met together. You heard reasons. 30% of our budget goes to golf, and people want to use the beautiful paths they own. Dogs are good for health. Dogs are good for health, bringing people together, marketing. We want dog owners to choose to live here. We need safe, beautiful places to walk away from speeders. Plus a $500 fine for having a dog ride in your cart after hours doesn't make sense. We're asking everybody to share and care about each other and about the courses. We pay for them. So we commit to keeping our dogs on a leash and to scooping poop. We commit to being thoughtful of neighbors who might be sleeping or want peace. If we have an aggressive dog, we won't take it where it might scare someone. I told you I talked about saving money. Dan, you told me that HOA 2 spends $30,000 a year patrolling to keep dogs and people off the courses.
Andrea,
Use that money in better ways.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Next comment.
Dave Burgess, Unit 46. When you think about the dog policy, I urge the board to kind of split it into two categories. Dogs in carts, which is, to me, extremely difficult to see how that causes any harm. Dogs walking, issues have been raised. I don't agree with them. Most people pick up any waste. Those that don't, I'm sure the deer and coyote and javelinas leave a lot more waste. So that's just, it'd just be nice. We're spending $6 million to make a beautiful course, and a lot more people could enjoy it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Next comment.
Yeah, hello. My name's Bob Rosenkrantz, and I guess my neighbors aren't going to be happy with me. I'm in Preserve at 45 and number 39, and we are very close to a cart path. My wife and I both like dogs a lot. We rented at HOA 1 before we moved here, and we were also close to a cart path. And most people did pick up after the dogs. Some didn't. Some didn't do a great job of picking up. And I had flies at my table when I ate dinner. I had flies on my grill. Also, there were times when dogs got together in that area and barked while maybe we're still asleep. And I think it's a golf course, not a dog park. But a couple other things here I wrote down so I don't forget them. Oh yeah, also where we are now, I get up in the morning early and I watch sometimes the javelinas, sometimes the coyotes, usually the rabbits, sometimes the deer. And dogs and those animals do not get along. So people could be walking their dog on a leash and there's going to be a problem. And maybe dog in a golf cart, I don't know about that either because they're going to go after the animals. But I think what happens is a lot of the people here mean well And a lot of them don't live on the course. They might live a block or two away, so they're not affected by any of this. But the people that live on the course are going to be affected. And the people that really want this, they're all here in mass. And there's probably a lot of people that don't want this that live on a golf course that aren't here.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the comments.
I have lived here. My name's Penny Maloney.
Wait, hang on. We can't hear you. And tell you, we're not being mean here, but if we can't hear you, it's not being recorded, and someone watching can't hear you either.
I think my fault was being short.
Okay.
It was up too high.
Cool.
Okay. I have lived, my name's Penny Maloney, Unit 23, Lot 101. I have lived in Saddlebrook for 27 years. I have lived in one until the last 6 years. I walked that course for all those years. No problems. It seems to be a very unusual thing that we aren't aware of any of this, some of us that live here. It never was brought up as an issue. My dog now, I've been a widow for 20-some years, and as Andrea wrote in the article of hers that I cut out and saved for 6 years, pets can be extremely important to people. They are your company. They are more than that. My little dog, when I walk him up in our little grass patch, stands and sits down nicely and looks at 3 deer. Their eyes are sweet. My dog's eyes are sweet. They walk away. I was told by someone in control that the reason we couldn't have dogs on the course was that their waste would break the machinery and put the operators in danger. I guess that hasn't happened in 27 years on the other course. All I'm saying is we're asking as dues-paying members, and my dues are equal to my taxes now, that I can walk on that course and be believed to be a person who cares for things, who follows rules, and is a regular dues payer. And I think that shouldn't be such a giant decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Janie Grinstead, Unit 27. And about 4 years ago, I almost killed somebody. And it wasn't my husband. I was going up Amberwood Road in my Subaru just as the sun was going to set. The sun was in my eyes, a car was coming the other way, and there was a gentleman walking on the road with a golden retriever. And I couldn't see him. And it happens in the mornings when people walk, and in the evenings when people walk as the sun comes up and the sun sets. And that's when we want to walk our dogs. We have to watch out for garbage cans, garbage trucks, cars, golf carts, landscape equipment, handyman equipment, bicycles, and the fact that there's no sun. As far as the poop is concerned, most of us pick up. There's going to be a few people that don't, and if they don't poop on the golf course, they're going to poop on your gravel. They're going to poop on your driveways. There are going to be some people who do that and don't pick up no matter what, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. But I think we need to take care of what's important to us, be able to have our enjoyment. I encourage everybody here on the board to go over to HOA 1 by the fountain and go on the golf cart and see how much fun these people have, the communication they have, the good times they have. Because this is something we all want to have together. Please look at the people who do the right things, not the people who do the wrong things. And this is who I'm doing it for. That's my picture. That's my picture. Okay. This is Molly Holly, Snickerdoodle Ding Dong. And she's a big girl. She needs to walk someplace safe, and so do I.
All right, thank you very much. Next up,
my name is Sherry Kaplan, Unit 28, Lot 56. I live on the golf course. I have no problem with dogs on the golf course. I have seen 30 javelina run past my home on the golf course, and there's poop from javelina on both sides of my house because my neighbors don't have gates. And the javelina cross Skyline Drive, where I live, to get to the golf course. I have never walked on the golf course until my other dog just died 2 years ago. Lived here for almost 11 years, never got to walk on the golf course, because if you have a dog, you don't walk without your dog. You feel guilty. It's like having a kid. You don't want to leave it alone. You take it with you. And so I think it's wrong for me to be paying as much as I do for my home on the golf course and never being able to use it. Or I don't golf. And my husband doesn't golf. But I appreciate that you want it to be nice and clean. And honestly, I walk to the HOA 1 golf course every morning. I walk 3-4 miles every morning because I can't use my own golf course. And the people there are considerate. I've never seen poop on that golf course. Never. And I've been doing it for 2 years now. Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, Linda Oberski, Unit 43, Lot 22. So you've heard all the pros and cons and so forth, and you got this. So I've lived here for 6 years, and through boards before you, this has been a continuous problem, or issue, okay? I don't know why now it's still an issue that hasn't been decided for sure. And what has happened is you've had, these other boards have had opportunities to deal with the other outsider comments. I mean, you're our board. You're supposed to be working for the voice of the people. And when you have this many people that really want something, and every single year the pressure builds up and more people get on board as they move in here with their pets to want to be able to walk on the golf course. So now you've got a whole new golf management, so now you got to go to them. You know, this should have been handled a long time ago. But now the pressure's built up and you got a whole stack of people here, but you still need to go to other outside sources. But you're our voice. Why don't you dictate to the golf people and say, this is what our people want. They've declared they're going to pick up. There's going to be some things that'll have to change a little bit, but let's go for it. Instead of going to the golf people and saying, you know, we know you want to keep your golf courses real clean and nice and everything, but our people want to walk their dogs and they pay for the course. So I'm just saying, you know, this should have been handled 3 boards ago, but here we are again.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Come on up.
Hi, Rita Fletcher, Unit 15, Lot 37. Thank you, everyone on the board, for allowing us, dog and non-dog people, to give you comments. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am for walking a dog on the golf course. As I enter into this community, it says a Robeson Resort community. It is not just a golf community. Let's try it, and then we can fix it. Let's enforce the rules and regs to allow dogs to be walked on a leash by responsible people, and enforce the rules and regs for those that abuse that and will lose that privilege. Thank you, board, again.
All right, thank you. We're gonna, I think, wrap this up with this last lady, hopefully, because I'm getting hungry and you're getting hungry, and I don't know.
I think I'm the last one. Anyway, I'm Cheryl McMillan. I live in Unit 27. And I also back to the dog. I'm Cheryl McMillan in Unit 27. I back to the golf course. I also have a dog. And I have to tell you, there are a heck of a lot of coyotes out there on that course behind my house. So I know there are a lot of animals back there that are dropping their waste. But the big thing for my dog is the streets are so hot. There's nothing, I haven't heard anybody talk about, the asphalt is terribly hot. And those poor dogs, you know, it would be so much nicer on the dogs for their feet to be able to walk on the course rather than on the street. I hate walking them on the street. So I keep them in the backyard. On the edge of the golf course, yes, because you're walking on the sidewalk, right? So that's my comment about that. I wish I could walk them on the course. But my other comment has to do with garbage pickup. And I'll be the first to talk about that. Garbage pickup in our area is 7 o'clock or maybe before. If I get up at 5 and I could get the garbage can out there by 6, yeah, all right. But if I sleep in until 8 o'clock, I've missed my garbage. So think about that when you talk about when we can put garbage out. We do pick it up if the javelina knock it over or something knocks it over. Of course we're going to be out there picking it up. But normally, if I'm in bed and hear that garbage truck, I know I missed it if I hadn't been able to put it out the night before. So that's it.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to assume that I don't see anybody raising their hand or coming down, that we're kind of done with comments. Let me reinforce this motion that is in front of the board. That we request Rules and Regs Committee consider a change in the current dog walking rules on the golf course. And we also request that they consider the trash placement time issue that's currently in our rules and tell us if they think that needs to be changed or not. So that's the motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Ray, thank you very much. Okay. You did a great job. Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and I will then open it up for resident comments. Again, we have a 2-minute limit on your comments, so let us know what you want. Let us know what you're thinking. And I don't know. Come on up if you're there.
It's not about dogs. My name's Neva Ryder. Live in Unit 46, Lot 26. First of all, I want to thank all the board members for your service. I really appreciate it. My concern is people living in nearby communities coming into Saddlebrook to take advantage of our clubs. These non-residents do not pay our association dues. Fees that pay for our amenities, roads, buildings, salaries for all of our staff. I've lived here for 18 years. Historically, I know that having outside people come in to want to use our amenities has been a problem. Previously, board members, the historical problem has been with people coming in to use the pools and the fitness center. Previous board members addressed this problem by issuing Saddlebrook identification cards that must be used to enter these facilities. Recently, I read our reciprocal use agreements and our official CCRs, where it is stated that Saddlebrook amenities are for Saddlebrook residents. In talking to several residents who belong to both Saddlebrook 2 clubs and those who do not belong to clubs, most are unaware of the restrictions of non-resident. My question to you is, how do you as board members educate and remind residents and club leaderships and reinforce restrictions on non-residents.
All right, thank you. The only thing I'll say to that is that my colleague, Mark, is working on a club policy that addresses non-residents. Our rules are very specific. Non-residents are not allowed to use any of our amenities. They're very specific. And we really have done a poor job in the past either enforcing or making that aware to many clubs. So Mark's working on that. I would suggest if you show up in September at the board meeting, you might hear that presentation. You don't have to show up. You can see it probably, but that's coming up. That issue is on the board work and is coming up.
Can you give Mark specific examples, though? Chat with him after?
Yeah, he's the dude, but he's been working this for quite a while. Yeah.
It's been on the roof since 2018.
Yeah, we're working it. Thank you. Okay.
You should have my unit and lot number memorized by now, but Linda Oberski, Unit 43, Lot 22. So I spoke to you and addressed the board last time I was here, and it's regarding our common areas. I don't know too much about the other areas of HOA2. I live in the preserve. So I live, drive, and walk that all the time, ride my bicycle. And I've got to say that the common areas look horrible along the streets. I think you asked me what streets or areas, but just drive around. I don't know what the other parts of HOA2 look like. I was told last year there had been a budget approved to put new landscape materials in those areas where the cholla and the paddle cactus that have been in there forever have just died. They get removed. You guys, I mean, the whole maintenance crew is great about removing things and chopping them down. I see very little new stuff going into some of these areas. And we want our preserve area to look as good as the new parts of the preserve instead of the ugly stepsister that it looks like now. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, just drive around the streets, Ocotillo, Cactus, Peregrine, all those areas, and you look along the streets and you'll see a lot of blank areas where things have been removed, but there used to be some stuff there. You know, plant some new rosemary. Give us some things there instead of just constantly chopping and taking things down. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for that comment. Let me just say, and I think it's an important comment from my perspective, the board's perspective. Common area is very important in how we look like what we look like. There is no question about that. And right now, we staff at 17 people in common area. That's our staff. They do all kinds of different work, do work that you're talking about. They do work in level 5. They do behind your wall, level 4. We're down 5 people. We've been down 5 people for 6 months. It is a very difficult position to fill, and it is putting a real stress on what's going on in our common area. It's not an excuse because we've got to figure out how to solve it. It's the reality, though, that we're living in today. So I just want to say, but thank you for the comments. I do appreciate them. Next.
Ann Grevel, Unit 42. Again, I want to thank the board for your time and your service. I really appreciate all that you are doing. Every manager, director, and board member across every organization wants to make a difference. Statistics shows that every person who assumes their role starts a project or wants to create change to improve the value to their organization. Most will select their projects based on personal bias, and a few will create those changes. But over 73% of these initial projects will fail based on the fact that not for lack of improper change management or techniques that are implemented because of lack of buy-in from their stakeholders or communication. For example, new silverware or napkins will not create the incentives for people to return to restaurants because of lack of poor service, or new logos will not encourage people to return to play golf, just as purchasing a new car will not help a poor driver drive better. I implore you, please do not approve an expenditure to expand or remodel or upgrade or push forward a change without first ensuring the change is fully resolved a major problem facing our community and is supported by its stakeholders. This Saddlebrook family has worked hard all of our lives for our money. Our funds deserve to be properly looked after in our retirement. Thank you for your time and your dedication to ensure a better future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? All right.
Jerry Hack, Unit 36, Lot 18. I have a question, and it's a question to all of you. How do you pick the people to get on these focus groups? How do you select the people that get on these focus groups, like this strategic focus group? They call in?
Yeah, they apply.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Did you have a comment? Did you have a comment? Oh, sorry.
13. My question has to do with the golf course project. You stated that it is on budget. Can you tell us what that budget is?
Yeah, Ken will be happy with that. Sure. The budget is $5.7 million specifically.
For the golf course?
For the golf course renovation.
And how much of that has been spent to date?
About $3.2 million.
Okay. So the remainder is supposed to fall within that remaining amount?
Yes.
Okay. They're far behind schedule, right? Far behind. Is there any part of the contract that penalizes the contractor for not meeting the date?
Just to clarify, actually, the budget is $6 million. The contract was about $5.76 million. There's $250,000 for overages that were just included in the budget, and I think was mentioned earlier that about $42,000 had to be spent for sand. And yes, there was a very minor $10,000 reward if he finished early and a penalty if he finishes late. That was added. It's pretty minor compared to a $5.7 million contract, but there is one. So as of right now, he would obviously not be getting rewarded the $10,000 benefit.
Well,
he would be penalized the $10,000 penalty for being late. So that's the way the contract's written.
Is the penalty $10,000?
Yes. $10,000 max for reward if he's early and $10,000 max if he's late.
What if they're 2 months over?
If he's late by 1 day, he doesn't get the $10,000. But you have to remember, though, he's a contractor in business to make money. Every day he's got people out there working, he's spending more and more money. There is nobody that has a higher priority in finishing this contract and getting it done than the owner of the contracting company. Of course, we have to make sure he does it correctly. We've got plenty of people making sure of that, okay? But I don't think we have to incentivize him a lot to finish it. Believe me, he has got a lot of people working to finish it. So.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Dee Barisha. I am in Unit 17, Lot 115. I would like to thank the board for reaching out to the outside organization of McMahon. I am here to talk a little bit about the unification issue. The surveys that went out to both HOA 1 and HOA 2 in 2020 and 2021 both addressed the unification issue. Approximately 74% of those that responded from HOA 2 were in favor of a merger, and approximately 67% of those in HOA 1 were in favor of a merger. The question was also on the McMahon survey. I would just like to encourage you all that when people in HOA 2 and HOA 1, even though they didn't get a McMahon survey, talk, we are hoping that you listen, because the voice is loud and clear that we need to be actively working toward merger and become one community, because that's what you see when you drive around Saddlebrook, is one community, and the voices are loud. And I would like to thank you ahead of time for listening. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Andy Marino. We're in 23, lot 79. Just a quick question. I know we have a reserve fund that's designed for scheduled maintenance over time for the community. So we live on the corner of Desert Bluff, Desert Peak, and that wall, that external wall that's on Desert Bluff, the stucco, the paint is failing severely, it's flaking off, as is true for most of the homes as you go up Desert Bluff. So I looked online, I couldn't find it. So is there a spot online where I can see for scheduled maintenance when that wall will be repainted or restuccoed, going up Desert Bluff as part of the reserve study?
I'll let that up to Walter. Walter can get back to you on that.
So the answer is right now, no, there is not a published schedule on the website that you can see. However, the facilities team does have a schedule, and I believe I know which wall you're talking about. So I'll get with the facility folks to have them check it out. So, but
Yeah,
there is no
I
schedule
just couldn't
published.
find it.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve.
Steve Penner, Unit 14, and I'm surprised if some of you want to speak about financial reporting or lack thereof. But first I want to address the issue about the golf course. Well, in that memo that came up today, capital expenditures in the second half, there was nothing for golf. It wasn't listed, and here it's 3.4 million is to be spent in the second half. So I think addressing to your issue of rumors, I think it would be good if the finances of golf, the capital spending was maybe there was an article on it. That's why rumors start, because there's no information has been provided. But my issue on one of the charts that came up there, when it gave the various current assets for the three divisions, there was an asterisk, and it said 2022 does not match the audit. If we have the audit, why don't we use the audit? Those figures don't even match the audit. They don't match the December statement that's on the website. We have two balance sheets, the audit and another one done internally. Once the audit is completed, why don't we just use the audit and get rid of the other stuff? Last year's budget, beginning year of the reserve, it wasn't the same as the audit. I mean, it's simple. I mean, it's just common sense. Once we get the audit, those are the official numbers, and the others we get rid of.
Thanks, Steve. No, good comments. Good comments. Thank you. I'll leave that up to Campbell and Terry. Okay, any other comments?
Bob Rosenkrantz, 4539. Just a comment, and I've been here about a year, played golf at other places, and a lot of people, members of the preserve, have left and gone to HOA 1 because of the condition, mostly of the bunkers.
All right, good comment. I don't see anybody else. I think it's all over. I'm calling it. Thank you all for coming.